Hello everyone, welcome to Olsen Cafe. In my last lesson, I went through some basic features of sine graphs and cosine graphs. Over here, I would like to cover tangent graph here. Now, so if we talk about the basic features of tangent graph, the number one thing that you will see is the asymptote. Yeah, so this is a basic tangent graph, which is y equals to tangent x, whereby you will see the asymptote at x equals to 90 degrees and 270 degrees. So at these two lines, right, you will notice that the tangent graph will never pass through these lines. Yeah, so the other thing that you will need to take note, all right, the basic feature, all right, which is all the key points, which is what you can see here. So you will see tangent 45 is equals to 1, whereby which is this point here. So you will see that your tangent graph should pass through this at the first quadrant. And then in the second quadrant, is tangent 135. So at tangent 135 degrees, the value will be equals to -1. So similarly, at the third quadrant, tangent 225 degrees equals to 1. And at the fourth quadrant, at 315 degrees, the tangent is equals to -1. So these are the this is a second feature that you should see in your tangent graph. So ensure that your graph must pass through this key point. Now, the other thing that you will need to take note, it will be looking at the asymptote and period. So over here, it's quite obvious when you look at tangent graph, right? There should not be any, there is no amplitude, yeah, because the graph when the graph go to positive infinity or negative infinity. So that's something you need to take note. Now, how about period? So for period here, right, for tangent graph is slightly different from sine and cosine. So in this case, for period, for tangent graph, we are looking at from 0 to 180 degrees, because after 180 degrees, right, you notice the tangent graph actually repeat by itself. So therefore, the period for tangent graph that we have here, it is actually 180 degrees. Yeah, so this is something that you will need to take note for tangent graph. Now, the other one that I would like to highlight over here, since I have a graph here, I just want to show all of you the tips, to sketch a good trigo graph. So usually these are the three things that we look out for: the size, all right, the rule of thumb is about here and there about 1/3 of a page. So if it's too big, sometimes your graph will go out of shape. Yeah, it's too small, it can be very difficult for you to sketch. Yeah, so this is just a guide, a rule of thumb. Usually we see if the size is about 1/3 of a page, you can generally get a good graph. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is the scale. Now, so what do I mean by scale over here? So the scale actually say equal interval. So if we are looking at the horizontal scale, right? So the horizontal scale, so for example, if you're for 90 degrees, right? Let's say if you take this number of units, so therefore, all right, between 90 to 180 degrees, it should also be approximately the same number of units. Yeah, so if you are able to stick to this, all right, your graph will is easier to sketch a symmetrical graph. Likewise, for the vertical scale, so the vertical scale, all right, it should approximately the same. Yeah, so these are just some little tricks that you can actually look into. Now, so after we have looked at y equals to tangent x, the basic graph, let's take a look at the other two types. So say y equals to 2x. Now, so if y equals to tangent 2x, so how does the graph look like? So basically, if you see the number 2, right? So the number 2 actually shows you that there should be two complete cycle within the range from 0 degrees to 360 degrees. Yeah, so what I have here is the graph that is drawn between 0 to 180 degrees. So part of the graph, all right, is done. So I have one part of the graph done. Yeah, so what if now I want to draw or to sketch a graph that is from 0 to 360 degrees? So which means I will have to complete the other, all right, cycle from 180 degrees to 360 degrees. Now, so to do that, right, I just want to demo to you. I will need to have all the key points as I mentioned earlier. So what are the key points then? So it's between the asymptote and 180 degrees. I know that my graph, I should pass through it should pass through 1, and then between the asymptote to 270 degrees, all right, my graph should pass through here, which is -1, and then this one will be here, and then between this, then it will be here. So putting all this together, I'm going to plot the graph. I'm going to just sketch. So I join the graph together. And here you go. Right, this will give us the graph of y equals to tangent 2x. Yeah, so you will see the two complete cycle over here. Yeah, now so let's move on to the next type, just to show you the basic feature. So over here, what we are going to have is we are going to have y equals to tangent half x. Now with y equals to tangent half x, how are we going to sketch this graph? So now with a half x, so which means, all right, with this half here, that means what I should see is I should see half of the graph, the basic graph that we have seen right from the beginning. So to do that, we are going to first draw the asymptote. So instead of at tangent 90, so now because of half x, my asymptote, it will be at 180 degrees. So I will have it here. So I shall plot the asymptote. Let me draw the asymptote here. Yeah, then with this, I can move on to getting my graph ready. So once the asymptote is done, the next one is the key points. Yeah, the key points earlier on the basic graph, we have tangent 45 equals to 1. So over here, because it is half x, so what I will have here is I will know that my tangent 90 will pass through 1, and then at tangent 270 degrees, it will pass through -1. Yeah, so once I have this, I'm going to just draw the graph out to sketch the shape, the curve. So I have this will be 1, and then the other one, it will be here. Yeah, so you will see my tangent graph, it will pass through this point. Maybe it should, let me try to redraw. So I try again. Yeah, this one look better now. So I will have, this will give me tangent half x. Yeah, so we see only half of the graph here. Now how about period? Yeah, so over here, what is the period here? So in this case, the period, if we recall, right, if we go back to the earlier shape, all right, the period, so the period over here, the first part here is 180 degrees. Yeah, so if you look at the period of my tangent graph, so over here, this tangent 2x here, right, the period that I have here, it should be, can you guess? Yeah, so the period over here, this one is actually 90 degrees. Yeah, so and then the other one, if we are looking at tangent half x, so the period is actually exactly from here to here. So therefore, the period that we are talking about, y equals to tangent half x, it is actually equals to 360 degrees. Yeah, so hopefully with this diagram, I have shown you some basic features of a tangent graph. So do take note, you should have the asymptote, and then do take note of the key points. Yeah, and how does it look like when you have y equals to tangent x, y equals to tangent 2x, and y equals to tangent half x. Hopefully you'll find this useful. Yeah, so I will see you in the next video. Bye.